Hi everyone, I'm Tonya June Moore. Welcome back to the Sedona International Film Festival 2023. This is our 29th year, and boy, are we lucky. I have the honor and pleasure of being here with one of my icons, really,
Thanks.
the impeccable Karen Allen. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, and you have two films in the festival here.
I do, yeah.
And we will definitely be talking about those, but I want to get people familiar with you. You might recognize her from Animal House, Starman, Indiana Jones. I could keep going and going and going because your career is very illustrious. What was it about A Stage in Twilight, which is your film here this year, that attracted you to it?
Well, it began for me with a conversation about 10 years ago with the playwright who is now the screenwriter or director of this piece. And she and I were talking about end-of-life issues. We were both grappling with them within our families and such. And she said she wanted to write a play dealing to some extent with the death of her own father and with the kind of conversations she'd had with a number of people who were losing parents. So about a year later, she handed me a play, and I read the play, and we started having a series of conversations, and I would hand it back to her, and she would work on it a bit, and then she'd hand it back to me, and after a while, we felt like it was in good enough shape where we wanted to start having some readings and let some other people give us feedback. So we brought in an actor to play my husband because it was just a 3-character play. And we worked on it as a play for about 6 years. We did numerous readings in New York City and various places. We did workshops at 2 theaters that were interested in producing it. And then COVID hit. So we went into this 3-year hiatus in which it was not going to be done as a play. I mean, we didn't know that at the time that COVID first reared its ugly little head. But she sat down during COVID and wrote it as a screenplay. She had just recently directed her first film, and it was out in the world at that point. And she sat down, wrote the screenplay, and sent me the screenplay. And then we started kind of doing a similar thing, going back and forth, talking about it as a screenplay. So that I got drawn into it over a long period of time and got to know the story and the characters and the relationships. And it's really about a man and a woman who've been together for 45 years. And
Yes.
he's given an unfortunate diagnosis that he has a very short period of time to live, and it's about them coming to terms with, choices that I think some people will find surprising, that there are people who make choices about how they want to leave
go.
this world that are not necessarily the choices that their partners want them to make. So,
Yes. And it's a tough subject, and it's a
Yeah.
poignant film.
yeah.
I don't think there was a dry eye in the house yesterday as we were all watching. You had a full house
Yeah,
in
it
the
was
big
nice.
theater.
Yeah, it was nice.
How did you feel about all of the emotions? I'm sure you felt the energy of the audience in that moment, and I literally was looking around watching people wiping their eyes.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get to be there for the beginning of the screening because I just flew in from the East Coast
okay.
yesterday morning, and I got to the screening about 45 minutes before the film was over so that I could do the Q&A. So I didn't get the full experience of the audience experiencing the piece, which I often have at film festivals. I've sat in the theater while the whole piece was up on the screen. But you can feel the engagement. You can feel that people are very moved by
Yes.
what's going on with the couple.
And I think this opens up conversation about what people really desire. I mean, some people
Right.
really want a lot of attention, and others would just like to be in silence and go peacefully.
Yeah,
And I think that this movie couldn't be any more on trend than we're talking about Jimmy Carter being at home right now in hospice, and him making that decision to be at home and complete with dignity.
yeah.
you have such a connection with the lead actor.
Oh, with Bill, he's fantastic. Yeah, we had a wonderful working relationship, and have stayed friends, and I wish he could be here, but
I
yeah,
do too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of beautiful silence in this film. And there's a lot being said in that silence. Where did that come from? I mean, that comes from somewhere.
You know, I think that you know, the two they live just alone. They don't have children, and I think that it is a part of their relationship. And I think that they both probably spend a good deal of time alone. And I think when you're dealing with issues that deep and of such great meaning in people's lives, it's, you know, I think both of them want to very carefully consider what they're saying to each other, because these are their final weeks or days together. And I think that the silence comes out of the depth of emotion involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were just well edited, and it's just an incredibly well put together film. And of course, you. I think that people, if they've seen any of your body of work over your life, it's varied and it's different. Is there a scene that you have done or worked with other actors that really stands out for you as an actress in any film that you've done?
Golly. I'm sure many, but it's very hard to just pull them out of thin air.
I should have prepared you. I'm sorry.
You know, I know, Jeff Bridges and I, when we did Starman, for instance, it's just the two of us in a car most of the time. So there's a lot of those scenes, because there's this progression, you know, of me being terrified of him because he clearly is from another world, although I don't fully understand it. But plus, he also has taken on the form of my husband, who is recently deceased. So it's a very kind of volatile, confusing thing that's going on from the very beginning of them meeting. And then we have this period of time, maybe 7 days, in which they really get to know each other. And I think there are scenes in there that I particularly love. And you know, there's lots of scenes from, you know, I had the pleasure of doing a version of Glass Menagerie that Paul Newman directed, and Joanne Woodward plays Amanda, and John Malkovich plays Tom, and Jimmy Naughton plays the gentleman caller, and I play Laura. And you know, that's just a great play. So there's not a moment of a false scene in that play. I mean, every scene in that play is a gem, a diamond, and you know. So you know, there are pieces that you do like that are you know, you're just hoping to rise to the occasion of the brilliance of the writing.
I think what resonates, I mean, with me personally, is your Indiana Jones character, and I was telling everyone here that whenever I want to power up, I think about her out drinking all the people at the table, and I've been that way since I was a teenager. It just lives free in my head all the time. Yeah. I think that you have empowered many women.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And I think this film that you're in, and even White Irish Drinkers, both, is very empowering to women, and to see how far we've come. Are those intentional choices when the scripts come across? I mean, are those the ones that resonate with you?
You know, they probably do. I mean, I don't think that I necessarily think in those terms. It's just, what kind of characters am I drawn to? Like, whose stories do I find interesting to tell? And I have played some characters who are true victims. I mean, Laura, in a sense, is a true victim of circumstances, and I've played other characters who are, you know, but even delving into that, you know, into somebody who feels quite helpless, is fascinating, and can be empowering as well, because you can really, you know, find the pathway through that sense of helplessness.
I think that that's empowering in and of itself, to see
Yeah.
someone be vulnerable. And I think that that's kind of your ace, is that vulnerability even in your strength. And I think it comes across on screen. Is there an actor or a leading man that you've been in a film with that really resonates and stands out for you? Like, yeah, I would do that again. That was
Oh,
really
you know,
fun.
I've been very fortunate with my leading men, I think all the way down the line. You know, certainly Harrison and I have had a great experience doing these films together, and Jeff Bridges was like a joy to work with. I did a film with Albert Finney, which I just adored working with him. Gosh, I could go on and on and on. I mean, there's just so many wonderful, you know, Bill Murray in Scrooge. I mean, that was a
Scrooged.
challenge. He's a challenging kind of dude to work with because he's so, you know, comedians tend to like to go against the grain of the written line. So, you know, I mean, he would very often come in the morning and say, "I'm not saying any of these lines." I would have been up half the night, like working on the lines, and then suddenly, you know, we're just throwing the scene out the window and starting all over again. So there's, you know, there's that, but that is a real kind of interesting challenge for an actor to kind of find a
Yes.
way to, you know, just be much more spontaneous and in the moment. And for a director as well, it's challenging. But
Well, and you've worked with some really great
I've worked with
directors.
some wonderful directors.
I mean,
Armando Sante, I did a film with. He was so much fun to work with. I always draw a blank when I start thinking about, you know. But I haven't really had a difficult time working with any actors.
do you
to
think that's
speak
because
of.
you've chosen well?
Maybe a combination of, well, I mean, when I said yes to Indiana Jones, to Raiders of the Lost Ark, I didn't know who was going to play Indiana Jones. So they hadn't cast, I mean, they'd cast Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck fell out because he had done the pilot for Magnum PI, and they wouldn't let him out of his contract. So I said yes to that without knowing who Indiana Jones was. And sometimes you do that. Sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, they're trying to cast several roles simultaneously, and you know, sometimes you say yes based on the screenplay and based on the director and based on the story, but you don't have the luxury of
And you hope that
who
there's
you're
some
playing
sort of
opposite.
chemistry that
Yeah.
shows up.
Yeah.
We haven't even touched Animal House, and
Oh,
I
and
know
there's
that there
Animal
are
House.
many
And
people.
Peter Riegert is here at the festival because he's also in White
Yes.
Irish Drinkers, and I've yet again done another piece with him that's not it's not being shown yet, but we did something about 6 months ago together, which was really fun.
Oh
where
my
we
goodness!
play husband and wife. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness!
it's fun.
You are such a dream, and I hope that you realize how much you've meant to generations of people.
Oh,
We love
yes.
watching you.
Thank you.
We love that you've created iconic roles for us to look up to. And without even trying, which is even better. Which is even better. And the two movies that you have here in this festival are nothing short of remarkable. White Irish Drinkers.
That's opposite Stephen Lang,
Yes.
who plays my husband, and he's here at the festival, and he's just the most wonderful actor to work with. In fact, we asked him to play my husband in A Stage of Twilight, and he wasn't available to do it, and he recommended Bill Sadler to come in and play the
Well,
role.
I don't know that you could have outdone Bill Sadler in
Bill
this
was-
role.
he
You
was
two really
wonderful.
had a chemistry that I think is so endearing. that
Oh, good.
I think people can really feel that and want to live up to that
Aw.
end of life. So thank you. I mean, just thank you. And thank you for being here at the Sedona International Film
Hey,
Festival.
you know, I've always wanted to come to Sedona, and this is as good a reason to come as any I could come up with.
you have to come and
So-
hike and do all the good things.
I want to come back and do all the good things because now I realize tomorrow I'll be here today and I'll be here tomorrow, and that's just way too short a period of time to take in a place like this. It's extraordinary.
Hundreds of miles of trails and lots of vortexes to explore.
Yeah. Well, bring me to a vortex. I don't know if I've ever been in a vortex, but
You are living in one in Sedona,
Okay.
and it'll bring you all the luck in the world. Let's just fill it with that intention.
good.
I hope everyone out there gets to see this movie. What is the plan? I mean, is it
We go from here to Santa Fe, and then we're at the Sonoma Film Festival. We're at River Run in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, And there were probably, our very last festival is going to be the festival I'm on the board of, which is called the Berkshire International Film Festival, which is in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. And then it will be distributed in, I know they've had several distribution companies that they're talking to and sales people that they're talking to, and what decision they'll make, about, a film like this would potentially have a rough time maybe in the theaters, but it could certainly find its way to some wonderful streaming sites and,
Yes.
and get seen, by a lot of people, because, short of, the really big, mega, kind of films.
Blockbusters.
Yeah, there's not a lot of films that are probably going to be doing that well in theaters going forward. It's hard to say. I don't want that to be true, but I fear it might be true. We'll see.
I think people are really enjoying their home entertainment with home theaters
Yeah.
and things like that happening.
Yeah.
And not only that, I think people want to be able to relate to people that are on the screen. And the people that are watching films
Yeah.
are not always teenagers, right? They are of a certain age dealing with right to die issues.
Yeah.
And you've just done a brilliant job of bringing this to light and allowing people to see the truth. And I think you saw it in the Q&A last night when they were sharing stories and
Yeah.
saying, hey, this is how I want to go too. I don't want it to be
Yeah.
like this. So
Well, they do, people do share a lot of stories, and it is a big conversation starter, particularly because of the nature of his decision that he wants to die alone in spite of the fact that he loves his wife
Yes.
deeply. And, I think, as I said yesterday, I've gone through this with two friends in the last few years, which astonished me. I would not have guessed in a million years somebody would make that choice. I think Sarah and I talked about it a lot, and I thought, who would do this? And I thought, well, maybe a guy, who really has a lot of pride, and he doesn't want his wife to see him go
Weak.
through this process of, he doesn't want to be remembered that way. But it turns out, that it's not really only about that. It's about a lot of other issues. A very dear friend of mine, a woman who died in her late 50s, she made that decision and just shut all of us out of her last 2 or 3 weeks, and she just wanted to be alone. She didn't want people with her. She wanted, whatever journey she was going through or whatever process she was working through, she felt she needed to do it. It was just with herself.
personal.
Yeah.
It was personal.
Yeah.
I think it's really going to make a lot of people think.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to change a lot of legislation. I think people are going to really start talking about what this truth is. So thank you for bringing it to life for us and bringing it to life in such a poignant way. I hope many, many of you out there in the Webiverse take the time to find this movie and see it and enjoy it. And White Irish Drinkers, which we call it the 10-year anniversary, but it's really the 13th anniversary.
Oh, that's right, because we had to delay it.
Yeah,
for
we had to
2 years.
delay it a
Yeah,
few
yeah,
years.
yeah.
We had to delay it a few
Yeah.
years. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Truly.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you for being here in Sedona, and thank you for being part of this and allowing us to have all of our little fandom and enjoy you as a human being and not just this incredible actress that we see. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Stay tuned. We will have a whole afternoon of interviews. I do believe that you are back with the cast later today.
Yeah, I'll be back with Peter and Stephen and John, I think, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
later this afternoon. So you're going to want to stay tuned right here to the Facebook channel. It'll be over on the webpage and on YouTube later. Once again, thank you, Karen Allen, for being here with us, and thanks for letting me have this honor of sitting here with you.
Thanks.
Our hashtags this year are hashtag SIFF23 and Sedona Film Fest 23, and we'll see you soon.